Each day here on the digital side, following our television program Outside the Lines, it is OTL Extra. I'm Bob Lee. Let's continue my conversation with ESPN FC's Gab Marcotti, who joins us from London. We continue looking forward through our week-long coverage here on Outside the Lines at the FIFA presidential election. All right, Sheikh Salman of Bahrain, thought to be the front runner. He has arrived in Zurich before we thought we would see him get there. What is his public posturing about being there now?
Well, certainly, Bob, and you got to take all of this with a grain of salt because this isn't like another election. This is a very specific ritual where you've got basically handlers and spin doctors kind of putting out messages about what's going on and who's convinced who in the vote. Because remember, it's not, you're not convincing millions of people to vote for you. You're convincing a majority of 209 voters. And basically the message coming from Salman's camp is, well, he's done campaigning. He's relaxing in Zurich ahead of the election because he's already gotten all the votes he needs. He's got enough people on board. Now, whether that's actually the case or whether that's more posturing, time will tell.
Is there any indication that the questions about human rights violations against Salman, going back to the Arab Spring of 2011, his role ahead of the FA of Bahrain, whether he protected the tortured athletes, and we'll have that report coming up later this week, whether there's any traction, electoral traction, certainly there's editorial traction, and whether one is affecting the other?
All right, well, I'm going to give you a realpolitik answer here, Bob. The fact of the matter is it only becomes an issue if and when he could face some sort of criminal charge or some sort of ethics charge as a result of it.
He's been cleared, though.
Well, he's been cleared based on the information we have thus far, but the implication could be if there's a regime change in Bahrain, if new things were to come up about it regarding his involvement, new evidence. But other than that, the fact that he's been accused of something and he's not been tried, he's not been, nothing's been proven against him, what several observers have told me, that's not going to stop an FA voting for him if they believe it's in the best interest of their country for Sheikh Salman to be in charge. I mean, he's coming in to run FIFA. He's not coming in to, thankfully, go and run the secret police of a world government or something like that.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of time throughout the week to talk about these and other things. Salman's ideas are to separate the business and the football sides of FIFA, to not take an executive salary. A lot of people are lauding parts of his program, his platform, but also go back to what happened in 2011. There's a lot to talk about, as I said, but just one thing we'll leave everyone with watching us on the digital side. They've banned smartphones from, if not the floor, from taking them into the voting booth. I love the reason why. Explain.
So basically, they're very concerned about sort of people buying votes or even just kind of horse trading. And of course, if you're going to do that, you need to prove that you actually voted for the guy that you said you were going to vote for, right? Otherwise, you could go and sell your vote to 3, 4, 5 different candidates. So what people allegedly had been doing in the past is they'd been photographing their ballots inside the polling booth to prove that they'd actually voted for the candidate that they said they'd voted for. That practice has now been banned. So there's two ways to look at it. You can look at it on the one hand that it's going to discourage people lobbying or trying to horse trade for votes in this way, or you could argue that it'll enable some to sell their vote 2 or 3 times over to 2 or 3 different candidates.
I can't wait for Friday. This holds the potential of making the 1968 Chicago Democratic Convention look like high tea. This will be outstanding. Gab Marcotti to be with us through the week. We appreciate it. You'll be reporting as well from Zurich every day following our television program Outside the Lines on the digital side. It's OTL Extra.